The Dear Agency specializes in helping you understand your coverage before you need it. We offer all lines of personal and commercial insurance, including auto, home, and life. Contact Dawn Deere at 210-507-2169 and visit us at 7529 North Loop 1604 in Live Oak, Texas, or farmersagent.com/ddeer.
Are you pregnant and alone? You have options. The Sanctuary of Hope offers expectant mothers ages 12 to 22 a place to live, medical care, counseling, continued education, and options to raise your baby in a loving environment or help you with adoption. We want to help provide you and your baby with a bright future. Call us or email us today and let's walk through this together. 210-499-1554 or sohcares.org. All inquiries are confidential.
You are listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shamaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shamaya Reed.
Hey, welcome to I Am Refocused Radio. We are here once again, and today, man, we have a returning guest. He is the co-host, man. We talking about John Philip Stevens, man. We are in the building, social distance, of course. But, man, today we are going to be talking about identity during the transition because this pandemic, the unemployment, the craziness with COVID, all that stress right here in 2020, we're going to dive into that. So, first of all, I want to welcome John to the show and say, how you doing today, sir?
Hey, my brother, I'm doing good, man. It's always good to be back and have some good, healthy dialogue with you, man.
So, yeah, man, when you mentioned about exploring this topic, man, I'm like, dude, it's so much going on in 2020. It's like, if it is happening, it's happening. Because if it could happen, it's happening, man. It's like, it's almost like, when does it end? But we're going to dive into this topic of identity during this transition because 2020 is, is approaching the fourth quarter and we're about to end and turn into 2021. But we got so much going on. We have election going on. We have people still battling this virus. Let's dive into this topic, man. I'll let you have the floor.
So I wanted to talk about this because I think during a lot of our dialogue, we've covered, how to kind of stay afloat and how to kind of make your moves and do what you need to do. But one thing I don't think we really covered, and, we talked about our voice. I think that's probably one of my most favorite topics. But one thing I wanted to talk about is kind of put it on the hearts and minds of our listeners is, how do you identify during this transition? How do you discover your identity? How do you, keep that in the forefront of everything you can do? I won't say you will do, but you can do. Because a lot of things have been halted. Of course, the obvious with COVID-19 has put a damper on a lot of things across the world. But from a more personal perspective, you mentioned it, homelessness, people not being able to, pay their bills, pay their rent, pay their mortgage, joblessness. A lot of things have kind of overtaken us, and it's happened suddenly. We didn't have time to prepare for anything like this. We didn't have maybe like a 60-day grace period. So there are a lot of things that have taken the whole world by storm, and we just kind of had to deal with it. And whereas before we were used to, hanging out and being social, and I was sharing with a friend the other day, I think on the other side of this, a lot of our friendships are going to be challenged. Not so much that, there's any animosity or anything like that between friends, but just having that interaction on a daily basis that does something for our psyche. Mm-hmm. And so having to be socially distant and having to be quarantined for a number of weeks and having to be alone and really kind of figure out where you are, what you do, who am I during all of this? I think a lot of that has gotten to a lot of us, and we handle it differently. But I wanted to, just kind of keep that in the forefront and have the discussion. How do you identify during this time? How do you identify during a pandemic? How do you identify, with the political changes that are obviously in front of us right now? Mm-hmm. How do you identify with all that has happened in 2020? You know, brother, I think if we keep it real, a lot of us this time last year were super excited. You know, 2020 is going to be my year of great vision. And I'm about to do this. 2020 is going to be this, and that. You know, I'm for real. You know.
Yeah, no, you're right.
And it seemed like right at the top of 2020, stuff just started going downhill for everybody. So I think, you know, I think that's something we need to talk about, man.
Yeah, because I want to touch on that because, and by the way, you listen to I Am Refocused Radio, and we're talking to John Philip Stevens, music extraordinaire here in San Antonio, man, and he's from Ohio, man, just representing everybody, doing great things. But yeah, I want to touch on that because here's the situation. No one obviously could prepare for something like this. This is something that we had to adapt to on the fly. This was something where it was a situation where it's okay. When this happens, there's no playbook. This is something where you have to really just say, okay, who am I? Where am I?
Yep.
Where am I going? You know, where is God in all this? Like, how do I keep myself from going crazy? Because you have so many, you know, almost rights to, you know, just get frustrated and get like almost cuckoo because this stuff that's going on from the news, from the hot topics to the stories, is like, it's overwhelming to a certain degree because it's just constantly a different headline every day. You don't even have a chance to digest, you know, the previous headline. And I find myself personally to the point where it's like, okay, I have to just slow down and almost, I mean, we're already isolated, but you almost have to literally isolate yourself from online as well because you have to really dig in and find out where you really are. Because identity is something where if you're not careful, you end up finding yourself in a situation where you're just pushing yourself into wrong directions versus having a very clear mindset and clear path on how you're going to execute these problems. Because they are problems and everyone's facing them. It's just that we all have our personal story. When we are going through these problems, we have to really focus on, okay, what do I need to do today? Because we're in a situation, you can't put this off for the rest of the year. You know, if you're trying to better yourself, if you're trying to, you know, forgiveness or whatever, you're trying to fix relationships, if you're trying to go to the next level with your career or your job, or if you need to make a new, you know, move for your career or your job or be an entrepreneur, it starts like today. Like you can't put this off. You can't just say, I'm just going to chill and let this go by. No, this is something, it's like, is your opportunity right now to try to tackle these issues.
Yeah, I totally agree, man. And the isolation is such a intricate piece because a lot of people don't understand that. You know, isolation is more than just being confined to a closed space. Yeah. You know, isolation and please forgive me if I'm speaking out of turn, but when I heard you say that, I got isolation is silencing all distractions, silencing all the noise, everything that kind of takes you out of your hookup. That's that isolation in isolation. And to speak to your identity point, identity is something so powerful yet so fragile because we take pride in who we are, what we can do. You know, my name is this, and you know, this name gets me this, and all that stuff is fine. But in situations like these, our identity has become fragile because we don't have a chance to really express who we are.
Ooh,
there's so much going on. You know, John Stevens is not going to cure COVID. You know, John Stevens is not going to walk around and say, hey, you know, I'm the next, you know, bam, 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 bam. My identity doesn't afford me certain things in times like these. And there are a lot of people who take pride in, okay, my name gets me in certain doors. My name gets me, you know, into certain arenas. And that stuff is good. But right now, there's so much going on. And when you don't have a chance to really express your identity, that can become a very fragile thing, which can then turn into, oh, I don't feel like I'm good for anything. I feel like I'm useless.
Yeah.
And that, again, that psyche thing, because we have not been able to really do what we've been accustomed to doing. 1 year has really shifted a lot of our lives for many years.
Yeah.
We're on the end of 2020, and we don't know what's going to happen. You know, we've had to really adjust to what's going on in the world, whereas, you know, the world is kind of somewhat adjusted to what we've been doing, you know, with the sports, music, entertainment, the health system. A lot of things have had to shift in a matter of 7-8 months.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You know, and so really rediscovering, I should say, really rediscovering who you are, your value, your worth, your persistence going into 2021. That's something that, you know, should be on the forefront. And this is a conversation I feel like we need to have, because, again, approaching 2021, we don't want to find ourselves in the same position that we are October 2020. You know, who are we? What's next? You know, all of that stuff. And I'll turn it back over to you.
Yeah, because, I mean, everything I'm hearing, it all points back to what the show is all about. You know, refocus, and the source is God, and this is a situation where God has to be like in your life, man. Like, you cannot go through all this stuff with COVID-19, 2020, all the, you know, arguing back and forth on, you know, politics and headlines and these big stories and that story.
Yeah.
Like, God has to be the source. I mean, like, you really can't start 2021 without God. You can't finish this year without God. And you can be reckless and try to do it yourself. But I promise you, you're really, well, I can't say I promise you on radio, but I would say I have a strong feeling that you're going to keep struggling.
Guaranteed.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I have some little disclaimers. But, yeah, you really have to be conscious that it's really going to be a struggle if you try to fight this on your own and try to do this by yourself. Because I know I echo the scripture I like to say a lot on the show, and that's Jeremiah 29:11. God has plans for your life to give you a future, a hope in a future. Not to harm you, but to actually give you a hope in the future. And here's the thing. God's plan has nothing to do with money. It has everything to do with purpose.
That's right.
You know, like, purpose gives you byproducts, right, of blessings. But we can't get caught up in, I just got to make some more money. Because money is money. Like, it's a tool. But it's not the answer for everything. Money can give you more air in your lungs. You know, money cannot give you approval. It can give you some things, but it can't give you everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree, man, and I want to continue on with that point, man. There's so much peace and serenity when you know that this is not my final destination. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of us have lost sight. Excuse me. A lot of us have lost sight of what is at the end because of what we're going through right now, and just a small point in that scripture that you mentioned. Hope, and the thing that sticks out to me is an expected end. Mm-hmm. None of what the Lord does is unexpected. Everything, if you stay in constant commune with Him, you stay close to what God is saying and pay attention to what God is doing, God will always let you know, this is what I have for you. Mm-hmm. And like Shemaiah said, it's not always about money. Money is a good thing. You know, it answers some things, meaning it pays some bills and, you know, get you by out here on earth. Mm-hmm. But the expected end portion says, is God simply saying, this is what I have for you. This is where I'm going to put you. Mm. Now, anything and everything in between, and I wanted to highlight a scripture also, any and everything in between, I'll carry you through it. But this is where we're going. Just like when you plug in an address in your GPS. It will take you to that destination. That's an expected end. You know that whatever route you take is going to take you to your final destination. It's going to take you to that end point. So with everything going on now, as hard as it may seem, we cannot lose sight of the expected end.
Yeah.
This is where I know I will end up. This is what I know will be there when I get there. That was good. So I want to read something in James. Then I'm gonna turn back over to you, brother. Thinking about this topic today, this was one of the first things that came to my mind as we started talking. James chapter 1, verse 2. And we've heard this several times before. It says, "My brethren, count it all joy when you fall into diverse temptations, knowing this, that the trying of your faith worketh patience, but let patience have her perfect work, that ye may be perfect and entire, wanting nothing."
Wow.
We are living the diverse temptations, and diverse means various. We're going through various trials, various temptations, a number of things. But here in the word, it says, know this, that the trying of this stuff right now, it tries your faith and it brings about patience. Patience in knowing, here we go, patience in knowing that I got an expected end. I got something that's going, my faith is my seatbelt in the vehicle.
Yeah.
Faith says, hey, take it easy. We're going to get there. Buckle up. I got you. I'm going to secure you for this ride.
Good. Man, that's good, because just adding to that, and by the way, you listen to Army Focus Radio talking to John Stevens. But when you said that, man, I was like, did you say faith is a seatbelt? Man, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. The reason why I like that so much is because it's funny. Like, we're doing this by phone. And when you went in James, I'm actually in my Bible app looking at James chapter 4, verses 10. Yeah, I'm going to read that because I had that open, no lie, I had that open my phone before you even said anything about what you just said. I want to read this real quick because it ties in what you're saying. James chapter 4, verses 10. Humble yourselves before the Lord, and he will lift you up. And I'm so glad you said that, especially that analogy with faith being the seatbelt, because here's the thing, all this stuff that's happening. What's so interesting is that it doesn't matter how fast we try to outlive it, it's not going anywhere right now. Like we can't force this situation to just end tomorrow. I mean, if that was the case, you know, I think a lot of people would be more excited. But here's the reality. Like, sometimes God has you in situations where you can't force things to speed up and get through this pain and this process of going through. Sometimes you just have to trust him that he will lead you through and protect you along the way. And I know that's probably insensitive to some people because there's just, unfortunately, people who have passed from, you know, this pandemic. But my point is even through these trying seasons, sometimes God will just be like, all right, you need to first humble yourself and understand that I am God. And if you understand that, then I can actually move in your life. You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes we try to play that, once again, like I said earlier in the show, we try to play that part of I'm Superman, Superwoman, I can do this by myself. And God's like, wait, hold up, time out. You know, I need to actually do my work. You can't try to do it for me.
Yeah. And it's such a great thing to have this kind of dialogue in this type of setting. Again, because humbling yourself is not a bad thing. I think in society, on one coin, we look at humble as being, you know, abased or less than. And humility is not so much about just being at the bottom of the barrel.
Yeah.
It's the ability to say, I know who I am. I know that I can esteem myself to be, you know, what's the word I want to use? Not control, but I can lower myself. I can bring it down, and I can be modest.
There you go.
I can take my importance down from a 10 to about a 2, and it's for somebody to, like you said in Scripture, lift me up. I can be humble. I can practice humility, knowing that God will move on my behalf, knowing that God will elevate me. He'll sustain me. He'll provide for me. And in this pandemic, to tie it back to the original topic, in this pandemic, there have been a lot of great things that have happened for people in this pandemic. I can speak to the creatives out there. A lot of us have had more time to really dig into our craft and you know, dig deeper in production and writing and, you know, so on and so forth. You know, what you and I are doing right now, Shemaiah, There are a lot of people that we might not have been able to reach, had we not had COVID and just been in the studio.
That's true.
But with veins like these, we're able to really spread this message. And I think I said this on one of our earlier podcasts. God will make sure that the message gets to where it needs to get to. And I'm paraphrasing. Mm-hmm. And this is the good part about where we are now in the world. We have a chance to really just have a healthy discussion about what's going on in our innermost man, not no surface stuff. Mm-hmm. What's really going on in our hearts and our minds, and have a chance to talk about it. And those that are listening and can relate, they can chime in, and it helps us really get through these times.
Man, that is so good because, just think about it. We are so bombarded with all these distractions, all these, tweets, all these stories, all these everything. It's just everything's is begging for our attention. And I like what you're talking about. Sometimes we have to just get alone with God and say, okay, God, you talk to me, man. Because everybody is running their mouth. But how about you talk to me and you tell me what I need to do? You show me where I'm lacking. You be the one that is the source in my life where I find answers and when I have questions I go to. Because if we go back to that, I really feel people will start to realize, hey, it's not about what this world is doing. It's big question mark, what am I doing? What am I doing to make a difference in my community? What am I doing to have stronger friendships? What am I doing to be a better person? What am I doing? Like, we had to slow down and think on that. And there's another part I want to touch on real quick. James 4, verses 8. It says, come near to God, and he will come near to you. Wash your hands, you sinners, and purify your hearts, you double-minded. And the reason why I put that out there is because when you come near to God, you have to give something up. Like, you can't like say, okay, God, I'm gonna spend time with you, but I'm gonna do this too. Like, it doesn't work that way. It's just almost like a surrendering point. Like when all storms are going loose in your life, you gotta come to the point where you just say, okay, God, time out. I've been trying to do this by myself. I'm going to ask you to come in and help me out, because obviously if I try to do this on my own and continue that road, it's just going to be a big struggle, kind of like I referenced to in the earlier show. Yeah.
And again, it goes back to that identity. Who are you? What are you willing to give up to see something great in your life? And again, not to desensitize those who have, truly been affected, whether it's been health-wise, financially. Mm-hmm. That's not the angle that we're coming from. But I will say, even in that, I think I've seen that the way grief has been handled within this pandemic is totally different. And I think it's not allowing us to not be as selfish. And what I mean by that is, most times when a loved one passes or when we're dealing with just stuff that just seems super unbearable, we have a tendency to somewhat make it about us, how I'm feeling or how I got to go through and they're not here. And that's not one of the things that I think grief or I'll say life is intended to teach us. Mm. What we're doing now, we won't be doing forever. When B comes back on and refocus, that stuff, we won't be around to see it, bless people forever. Mm-hmm. But in turn, the legacy, the words that we've spoken, the articles that we've written, those things will forever bless somebody. And so what my point is, and as we get ready to close, my point is, with everything that has happened in this pandemic, I think people are really beginning to say, hey, let me just slow down. Let me take a pause. This is not about me. This is about, us. How are we getting through this? How are we making sure we are okay? Like I said, the articles that we've written, the songs that we sang, the things that we've talked about, this stuff will last forever. and it will change somebody's life forever. It will impact somebody's lives forever. And I think those are the things that are really going to help us get through and navigate. And most importantly, what God has said, and as we've alluded to in scriptures and in the word today, those things will carry us through this pandemic. That's our GPS. That's our turn left here. Stop that. That's our navigation. That's our turn-by-turn direction in this pandemic, man.
Yeah, I can't say that enough. I mean, I'm glad you picked the topic today about identity during transition, because if you're listening right now, I'm pretty sure you are in transition. You're basically making adjustments. You're adapting to every situation that's coming your way here in 2020. And I'll just leave you with this, man. God has the perfect plan for your life. And I would say never give up on your dreams and your goals, but always give your dreams and goals to God and say, what do you want me to do? Because until we are, willing to give up our pride and give up, like you alluded to earlier about, thinking of yourself so high with your name, my titles and all this stuff. And we just say, you know what, God, just tell me what you want me to do. That's going to be the biggest difference, man. I know we're short on time, but I want to thank John Stevens for being on I'm Refocused Radio, man. And we said we are in the green room, man. Y'all, please get out and use your voice and vote. We're in election season, and I'm going to let John touch on that real quick before we leave.
Yes. Real quick. So if you're local, there are several early voting stations across Bexar County, across the city of San Antonio. Please take advantage of your right and exercise your right to vote. Out of the elections that I've seen in my lifetime, I would say this is the most important and the most pivotal. We have a lot riding on this election, so please, if you're listening and you have access to early voting, please go vote. Please go vote for the last time. Please go vote.
That's it, man. And once again, this is I'm Refocused Radio. I want to say thank you to all the listeners who are listening to the show. And like John Stevens been saying, please vote, man. That is your right. That is your voice. We're not telling you what to do, how to do it. Just do your part, man. That's what matters the most. Put all the name and blame out the window and let's just live. But like we say on every single show, keep God first, stay focused, and peace.
Hi, San Antonio. Need a barber? Visit our good friend Rico Rodriguez, the owner of Rockefeller's Barbershop in San Antonio, Texas, 1733 Babcock Road, and book your appointment today by calling 210-782-5188.